welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the little coffee break. We are now coming to a quite exciting element of the BPM Round Table, I find, which is the panel discussion. This panel discussion may be characterized now by two aspects. The one would be that we are getting more and more interactive. It's not only one-to-many communication with presentations, but we hope to engage into discussions with you. So whatever question would come up, or you may have discussed something during the breaks, don't hesitate to put that down on paper and then raise it here and shoot at the esteemed panel. So we are very happy to discuss this. The other element probably is that we now have even increased the amount of practitioners here. So the event was quite characterized also by bringing academic experts here to also the regional industry to present latest research. But now we want to engage even more in discussing also with practitioners. So we have here an esteemed list of practitioners. Let me try to very briefly, I don't want to go into details to introduce the CV very extensively of everybody, but a quick comment from my side on the panel and the selection of the panel probably. We then go 3 rounds. Each round will be characterized by a specific question. Each panelist will be asked to give a quick comment on these questions, and then you will always have the opportunity to also raise questions. Here the questions, the 3 rounds will be, the first round will be the panelists' perspective on the topic. So what would the panelists now from their perspective understand by means of digital innovation and the role of IT and business process management in particular? So this is pretty open. Whatever comes to your mind, that is something we would like to discuss. Second round will be to collect a couple of examples, because of course examples are very illustrative, and sometimes maybe presentations or academic work remains generic in a sense, which is a good element, but we also want to collect specific examples. So since we have the opportunity here to have practitioners also, we would like to ask you then in the second round to present some examples of BPM and digital innovation in these company environments or in your personal environment. And then probably that sets the scene for discussing all together. And once we have discussed the topics, then together we would like to close the panel with the third round, investigating a little bit into what might be innovative approaches for research and industry to cooperate on the topic of IT-enabled innovation. Because we found that organizing the event, this would be a nice closing topic, since the whole event is kind of inspired by this idea of a better or a stronger intensified collaboration, cooperation between industry and academia. And since we are here now all together, we would, as academics, of course, particularly be interested in the practitioners' view on how would you kind of like cooperation to be, so that it is most effective and efficient, and definitely maybe also the academics could come up with a couple of ideas. So I just felt to let you all know what's happening. We have like 2 hours time for that scheduled in the program. We might not need 2 hours for this, so we are here at a situation where we probably are a bit flexible with what we can do. So we have also enough space to ask questions. So let me start off trying to briefly introduce the panelists. And let me start with our lady first. Faride Haidari.
Yes.
Is that pronounced kind of correctly?
Yes.
Thank you very much. University of Delft University from the Netherlands. And Faride is in her last year of her PhD. And she's working on a topic called understanding and computing non-functional requirements for business processes. Relates to some of those topics probably we discussed also in the third session from our presenters. So non-technical, non-functional requirements in business process management. And also she worked quite interestingly in a number of projects, Dutch and European projects in crisis management. And in this project she also applied and completed her experience and knowledge in business process management. I would like to thank particularly you for coming and taking the courage here to apply. We opened among all PhD participants of this event. We had a call for participations and a selection process, so Faride was selected, and it's great that you take the courage also to sit among those very experienced professionals here and present your views as a PhD. So.
Thanks for your trust.
Warm welcome. Thank you very much. You may give her an applause. Let me just continue by the random sequence of my briefing material here. Next is Mario Baldi, here on the right-hand side of the panel, from Camelot IT Lab GmbH.
Yeah.
GmbH. Mario Baldi is Managing Director of Camelot IT Lab GmbH since November 2010, and he has more than 20 years of experience in leadership positions related to IT industry, specifically in the environment of SAP related projects, systems.
A combination of IT and processes.
And IT and processes. That's why he is here. Camelot is an impressive, we will see during the discussions later, is an impressive advisory company in the field of supply chain management. And we are collaborating in particular in the area of big data analytics together with Camelot and our department at the University of Liechtenstein. So a warm welcome also to Mario.
Thank you.
Jens Pries, Swarovski. You've seen the beautiful booth over there, very impressive products. And Jan Pries is Director, Supply Chain Center of Business Excellence at Swarovski, and he's also Director of Supply Chain Global Logistics within Swarovski AG. After 7 years of experience in different areas of supply chain, working for different employees in different industries, he took over the responsibility of all global distribution warehouses, for all global distribution warehouses, and the Center of Business Excellence at Swarovski in Triesen, Liechtenstein. So you can imagine everything related to Swarovski. You see this in outlet stores all over the planet. Everything needs to be carried around, so logistics are involved. And Jens Pries is responsible for this.
And especially when you don't get it.
And especially when you don't get it. That's when you are responsible in particular.
Just before Christmas, just think about me.
Exactly. I think that is, for me at least, as I understand, an impressive responsibility and a set of experiences. And it's interesting, not only heading the operations, but also the Center of Excellence, which is also trying to further develop ideas and come up with innovative processes in the global logistics at Swarovski. So, warm welcome. We thought we should have at least an additional academic.
Thank you.
Stin Viane. He is a full professor at Vlerick Business School in Belgium. And he heads the Technology and Operations Management area there. And he is a tenured professor at the Department of Decision Science and Information Management at University of Leuven as well. He holds at Vlerick School, he holds the Deloitte Research Chair for bringing IT to the board level. And that's a nice expression for a chair, I find. Bringing IT to the board level. Very pragmatic and very important, very useful. We work together in a number of projects, and I appreciate that very much. You are a visitor here, kind of regular visitor to our university as well. So I'm very happy that you found your way again here to our event and that you take your time and share your experience and your view here on the panel.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Warm welcome as well. Last but not least, this guy. You remember him, right? Okay, so that's a good sign that you remember him, because Tobias Rölz already introduced himself briefly in the welcoming note from our platinum sponsor, Hilti. Tobias is head of IT workplace and application services at Hilti. and there he is responsible for global IT workplace, client, network, and voice infrastructure, as well as the SAP basis and all global databases. Wow. A lot of responsibilities. You can get very messy, I suppose, to be responsible for all this stuff. And he's reporting directly to the global CIO, Martin Petri of Hilti. So a warm welcome to you as well. Thank you very much. So maybe to open up, let's start with the ladies first again, right? So that's our pattern.
That's a very dangerous situation.
First round would be just a very casual comments, probably on what's your perspective on the topic, against the background of your research, probably against the background of what you heard today. What's your comments?
Yeah. So this topic that I am talking about, I'm open to more questions, and hopefully out of this there would be more research questions coming up. The theme of the event is digital world and how we can connect BPM and how we can, as a BPM, how we can incorporate in these things. In these days, we are experiencing a digital transformation that never seen before. We have social media, we have big data, we have mobile apps and clouds. And all of these things enables people to share information instantly and globally. Digital world has empowered customers in such a way that if a company cannot respond to their requirements and their interests, they can switch easily to another one. So customers are looking for organizations that not only see their current needs and interests, but also be able to predict them, and besides that, can fulfill those kind of interests. For this reason, business processes play a very important role in order to enable such a need in digital world. For example, in BPM lifecycle, what we can see, and what it was highlighted also in the previous talk, we can incorporate customers. And plus customers, we have other stakeholders for the organizations. We have partners, we have suppliers, we have vendors, we have even employees. So these people, their requirements should be captured and enabled and incorporated in different business process lifecycle. What this area that I would call co-BPM, collaborative business process management. From the other side, we have, in these days, we have even individualized customers' need. So in this BPM lifecycle, what I would do is that I would classify it in three types. Type 1, generalized. Type 2 is parameterized or customized. And type 3 is the one that is individualized. In the generalized approach, what is happening is that we have one business process and the life cycle, which is defined considering different stakeholders' requirements. In the second approach, we have customized business processes, each considering different sets of requirements. And in an extreme one, which would be individualized, for individualized interests, we will have a single business process targeting an individual interest. So this is can be a very new area and trend for capturing customers' interests, perhaps having an insight over that and having more customer satisfaction, because you are delivering the service that the customer wants. And that person can even, to some extent, control and monitor it and be involved. But this will have some sort of challenges. The first one, and it needs lots of foundations. In the terms of foundations, we need vocabulary, we need models, we need frameworks, and methods and techniques that can help us for overcoming these needs. But these methods itself, they should be agile and flexible to the new trends of digital worlds. There was a time that we didn't have these mobile devices. Now we have the introduction of mobile devices and apps. And in future, we will have maybe these augmented reality glasses. They will be more common. So what it should happen is that even the methods that we are creating, especially as an academics and practitioners, should be flexible in adapting to those ones. Another matter is that this is a very important topic. We are going to delegate the power from the company to its stakeholders, to customers, to for example, other partners. What is important is that it creates resistance. There are lots of social and cultural matters that should be considered in this area. And besides that, this is a journey. This journey needs that a proper change management be implemented. This is very important for organizations. Another thing is that capturing customer requirements can happen directly or can happen indirectly via the digital sensors that there are on the boards, report your location, for example, your speed of your car, and even tweeters. So another thing should be considered is the ethical and legal matters that really should be considered. So each of these things needs a proper consideration. And why we are want to have transparency and trust, another matter is that we should consider our partners and their autonomy, that they want to have their own power also. I see this area as a very niche area. The area can be explored more with lots of research questions and perhaps more collaborations between definitely industry, because they see what other stakeholders can see, and universities.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive comment. Thank you so much. Maybe Tobias, would you like to follow up on that? Could you maybe reflect also a little bit to what extent you at Hilti would have experienced some of those facets just being mentioned? Because I know that you are kind of applying also social media for quite a while, and that Hilti definitely is a very strong customer-oriented company. And yeah, would it be okay for you to go next?
Sure.
Thank you.
Maybe we've done our experiences with that, but perhaps I come to that in a second. Most probably, you guys have asked, or you ladies and gentlemen, you asked yourself, why is that technology guy sitting here? And I mean, databases and mobile phones and the client in the workplace. What the hell is going on here? Should I talk about process management? But that's exactly the reason why I'm sitting here, because technology. I mean, we have a bunch of technology today, but if you look how we can create value with it, I need with my team get the layers up and really get into the global processes, need to see where with these technologies can we really create value. And it's not because technology is cool, right? Because I have now the fast HANA database, in-memory database I'm using now. There's zero value in it, right, when I provide it. I mean, might be perhaps a little bit nicer to operate or whatsoever. Perhaps I use the Office 365 cloud for Lync and SharePoint, but there's not the value. So I more and more with my team need to get nearer to the business processes and really optimize them. And that's the reason why I'm sitting here. We've done a couple of good examples, starting with a globally rolled out contact center, which we started in 2009 and ended up in 2010, where we optimized the whole telephony chain, really how a customer is reaching us globally in 38 countries. We rolled it out, we fully standardized it, and created a huge momentum with our customers, because they not only could call us faster, they could really reach an agent much faster. They also talk to the right agent within seconds, and not that he asks, I have a question about fire protection, can you please connect me to a specialist? These are the things where technology significantly can help to do the processes leaner. And yes, around the social media side, we've done our experiences. So we started our websites, we are closely monitoring them, we are receiving the input, and now it's time to put that into a structured manner into the systems, right? And also to use it in a structured manner. So we've started a couple of activities here, also jointly with SAP. How do we get all these data into the systems? How can we use these kind of data people are posting on Facebook as one example, or in any kind of forum which is going on for the construction industry? So how can we use that data, and how do we make a benefit out of that? Yes.
Thank you very much, Rias. I very much like the notion, kind of, I think it was very much in all presentations, that IT is definitely fascinating in terms of enabling innovation, but it's not enough really to think of IT and technology only, but we need to find ways how to leverage IT towards innovation, and this, as Hilti also confirms, is very much related to business process management, to business processes. Absolutely. Thank you very much for your input statement. Maybe changing sides again here. Mario, can you comment?
As a first, thanks for this great organization here.
Thank you very much.
Second one, thanks from
Team.
these nice people here. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I think in our brand, Camelot IT Lab is innovative technologies is there. It's clear in this buzzword innovative, the customer wants to see from our side here innovative and creative approaches. So today here I listened today here a lot of theoretical approaches, a lot of IT approaches, but the point is why we do that. The customer wants here a solution, the customer. And here's the customer first. What we here discuss is, end of the day, money. We must create money with this process, end of the day. So what I here see and learn is, from this day here is clear, we develop here a lot of approaches, and we can bring this together with the customer business. And I'm sure in this extreme agility of the digital world, actually, we must work faster, extreme fast. The changes is daily, actually, not in the yearly mode, in daily mode. So, and look a little bit deeper in the different industries that we have. Automotive, for example, in the German area, chemical, pharmaceutical, and the Swiss area. You see here we have different business approaches, but the business is fast, extreme fast, very short times for develop of new products. So, and with this all informations what we here create from big data, bring together with the customer analysis, with the customer relationship management informations, we must bring this all together, and end of the day, we have employees. He must work with these informations and build up here a good business and good revenues, end of the day. So, and how we can bring this really together? BPM is one piece of a cake for this. In this whole value chain from sales, purchase, production, logistics. This is a cake from small cake from the big one. We must bring in for the better business. So it's a very important cake. But with here, the change management here, I think, is minimum 60% of all employees in their companies. And the change management is a big part of the BPM. And this is my clear view, and this is the view also from my customer. My customer is BMW. My customer is Roche, Novartis, BASF. So the big ones worldwide, my customer, and he have the same problem. How we can bring our products very fast, very cheap to our customer worldwide, in every time, night or day, and the best, and cheap. And this is an important point, cheap. So, and this is a little bit what I hear, and I hope I learn a little bit more. I can bring this theoretical approach to my business approach for my customer. So, and that is great, actually.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very important element, speed, which Mario brought up here, among other things. I also see that from a number of projects and talking to a number of practitioners and kind of analyzing kind of what's going on in projects and on the market. Definitely kind of the speed of realizing value and innovation is very key. So definitely I think we need to include into business process management on the one hand, the identification of innovations, but also the realization of innovations, right? And that relates then to subfields like transformation management, relates to areas as we have talked about today, non-technical aspects, organizational aspects, culture as a major driver or influencer of the speed of or the success at all of such transformations. I think this is very valuable for our discussion. It's not enough really, I mean, but still it's the first step to find a business innovation or a process innovation, product service innovation. But then of course we also need to implement and realize, and speed, I mean, we ask yourself in your organizations, how long does it take to change something? How long does it take to change even small things? Probably too long, still, right? And so I think we can all learn here, and it is very worthwhile further developing business process management towards how can we support also such transformations.
And Jan, I think the old word BPM, I think agility BPM
Yes, you're right.
is the new one.
For us or for me, it's included.
And the changes of our business in the daily mode, we must also here accept it.
Absolutely.
The old approach of BPM, and I see a lot of old approaches, but honestly, most of the big companies work with BPM the last 20 years.
You're right, you're right.
But looks a bit deeper, he wants more detail, how we can change here very fast our business with BPM. What is here head of impression? What is here the passion for the employees in this moment? So, and I think if we're looking a little bit deeper of the digital world, and this is one of the points, and especially here, and this is also a point, big data, what we do with big data.
Yes.
And how we can bring this together here in the BPM, how we to the end of to the business approach by a customer.
Right.
So, and this is not only here BPM. We have a lot of more impacts of our business in the future.
Totally. You're totally right. You're totally right. That said, it gives me the opportunity to stress maybe once again that certainly that relates to also the notion of BPM, and I find that prior practice and research probably has created a sense of business process management which kind of quite a few of us would probably consider to be old school BPM, or to be what probably is BPM looking into processes which are well structured and which are ultimately ending up in ERP systems, which are kind of commodity in most organizations. And what kind of, I fully understand, some people would then say that's a part of it, we need to have further elements. Other people might say business process management is still about business processes, even though kind of the way we manage them should be different in terms of supporting also more knowledge intensive, more creative, more innovative, more speedy areas as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks a little bit back to the last 15 years. It's coming Aris toolset.
Exactly.
This was here coming from God in this moment. The software, the cake of software, he will close every gaps in our company. No. Yes. This was not possible. Yeah. This was a start.
Exactly. Absolutely.
It was a start.
Absolutely. So I'm just making that point because it's an opportunity to once again stress that what some people might have in mind thinking of business process management in terms of, I don't know, optimizing the goods received process in an organization is not what I personally would, or what kind of most of also our presenters here today would refer to as business process management. Business process management for us would really include innovation management, transformation management, and those areas as well. But I think it is very nice, this very important element, we haven't talked about that so far, and I think it's important also to discuss maybe later, and to challenge yourself as an organization, ask yourself how agile would you be? I could ask myself the question for our university or for other universities I know, and change sometimes is an effort, and of course we need to be able to change quickly and effectively. Thank you very much. How is it at Swarovski? Could you comment a bit on your perspective?
Well, I think when you look at our sales process that we have, right? I mean, we are selling in 170 countries, give or take. We're having 3,500 products that we have to sell, and we have the beauty of changing our products all the time. Basically 2 collections a year, because this is, I guess, what the ladies won't like. So from a logistics or from a planning perspective, it's a complete nightmare to make sure that in all the sales points, we have more than 15,000 sales points across the world, and to have the right part in the right location. Because in our type of business, it is like either you have it on stock and you have it in the store, or the customer walks out and is going probably to the competition. But on the other hand, the advantage that we definitely have is that we own many of our sales points. We have more than 2,000 stores that are owned by us. We have a full integration in terms of IT in our SAP system, for example, from the store, the whole supply chain backwards to the manufacturing place. And we are starting the distribution channels between online and offline is more and more the separation that there used to be is more and more disappearing. And we start to implement the opportunity for our customers in the store to place online orders. So on the one hand, we have a huge deal of complexity where we need to react to very flexible and very agile. But on the other hand, we have some pros that helps us from an IT perspective, but as well as from a process perspective, to ensure to use the transparency that we have, to ensure that we have the right stock level in the right location. And to be able to do that, we need to react to different market behaviors, because the market in Asia is different, is significantly reacting differently to the market in the US. So to be able to utilize on these benefits, to be able to control the downsides, you definitely need transparency in the supply chain, and therefore you need also transparency in the business processes, and you need to utilize the opportunities that you have from your IT infrastructure. And not only SAP, but going beyond that and using all sorts of different tools that are available to structure the complexity.
Wow, thank you very much. Have you investigated at all into kind of such elements like process mining or also big data analytics in terms of analyzing naturally occurring data, which might be in tweets or in social media? I could expect that maybe you could find some indications to offer some jewelries
by using those data out of social media as expected. We can. I mean, one problem that we always have is to predict what type of products are being successful and which are not, right? And by using after the collection chains is done and the products are implemented in the market, we can utilize those data to also steer our production, but also because it's a fast reaction market, right? Either you have it or you don't, so you need to redirect your global inventory to those markets. If you feel like in the US a certain product is more successful than in Asia and you have it in Asia on inventory, then you need to move it to the US before the customer demands really kicks in, just because you see the demand on the social media.
Exactly. Are you relocating items also between shops?
Yeah.
Are you doing work
load
balancing? And you're doing that,
Yeah, more than we love.
Could imagine.
Yeah, when you're on an airplane, more than sure some of our products are sitting below you.
Okay. Amazing. Okay, thank you very much. Very nice input statement. I guess it's an inspiring case we can discuss still a bit today. Stin, what's your view on the topic?
You asked for some comments.
Yes.
First of all, after enjoying a full day of presentations, as an academic, I was quite happy. But I was still wondering how the practitioners in the room would have responded to a lot of academic, you call it theoretical views. I think they were not always as holistic as you could expect. I missed some keywords like change management, customer. And in the end, what is innovation? Ultimately, it's what a customer needs and what a customer wants. That's basically what it is. And also, if you deliver that, no customer would ever care about how you run your processes to deliver that. So it's a bit a paradox, if you want. So looking at innovation and process, there's a lot of people in the room probably that would associate process management with operational excellence. And even in operational excellence, I think there's innovations, structurally reducing the cost of producing, distributing, etc. It's also an innovation. But most customers would like to see more. A better experience that is going beyond convenience, for example. Now, I'm hearing a lot of people talk about agile as a substitute for what some people would call old BPM. And agile then standing for flexible, fast, etc. Just one comment there. I think it's a false juxtaposition to juxtapose agile and process. Why? Because some people think that agile is just act, and you would come somewhere where you actually need to be, which is completely false. You at least need to iterate the acting with some thinking and some conceptualization to really know where you're getting. So you get a little bit closer to the combination of, let's say, agile and process. Also, what we often forget when we mention agile is that there's still a cost involved in searching for something. So there is a need for some governance, some limitation of the cost of coordination. Also, there is a cost involved in reconfiguring, and not just systems, but also people and culture, and that's what we call change management. The last thing I would like to mention is that BPM and innovation, they share one thing. They are both after stimulating unnatural behavior. Everyone loves to continue to do what they always did. So innovation is definitely unnatural. And when it comes to BPM, we love to sit in silos, whereas BPM tries to go beyond the silos. So there at least we share something. And I would love to hear some people out of the audience comment on some of the stuff that has been said by the panelists.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So are there any comments? Is it true that innovation is something unnatural? I don't know. If I look at my 2-year-old son, for him innovation is what's happening all the day. Research is also what's happening all the day for him. He wakes up like boom, and from the very first seconds he's awake 12 hours at least. He's very innovative and creative, and he's searching. And looking at children, I quite often ask myself, when does it happen that people lose this spirit? and how can we sustain probably this spirit of inspiration and creativity and fascination for innovation? But down the road, of course, you are right. You're looking into what's happening in business.
And you're also using your son and not yourself as an example.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Absolutely. I don't like talking about myself. That's the reason. But there was.
Thank you for a good discussion. I had a question, two questions indeed. Do you mean by agile business process development or agile business process? And the other one is that, what do you mean by not natural? Because you can interpret it in different ways, and we should see what's your definition to see if we agree or disagree.
Mm-hmm.
I think unnatural is a behavior that doesn't come naturally, and that's but in
that's quite
in
right.
an organizational context that constrains you because you've learned some patterns as this is the way we do things here, and unlearning these patterns is incredibly hard. Innovation always involves unlearning, and the longer you spend time in a system that works pretty okay, the more difficult it's gonna get to get out. If I were an innovation guru, I would probably, and I would be a religious innovation guru, I would probably say that innovation has almost no chance of happening within a constrained environment we call an organization, and you would need to set up some kind of innovation incubation environment where you take away the constraints and let 1,000 flowers bloom. So that's kind of what you would find in most of the innovation books.
Yeah.
Many people have lost their belief in intrapreneurship and associated de facto with entrepreneurship. So that's why I said it's unnatural behavior. And then coming to the other comment, I think you need both. You need agile business processes, and you need agile business process management. The thing is, and I'm referring to a study we did, and it's restricted to companies that we looked at that were into open innovation and social creativity. When we looked at the big paradoxes there that made some companies work well versus others that didn't succeed, we saw 4 kinds of paradoxes that are tricky for most of the established BPM methods. That's number 1. BPM methods typically, as they're introduced in times of crisis, where there's a need for some constraining behavior, cost cutting and the like. The problem is with innovation you need an enabling environment and not a restricting environment. Number 2, when it comes to processes in an innovative setting, you always have beta versions. You can never arrive at an alpha version. So there's not a lot of companies who are good at integrating process discovery in what they're currently doing. Number 3, innovation. When you look at the really positive innovation, you go for open teams. Most companies organize their teamwork in very, very closed settings, opening up to almost no one, which makes open innovation a big problem. And number 4, if you want, the culture, and it's the same for BPM as for IT, we kind of still push a culture of you have to rather than you will want to, and we will need to change that quite a bit.
So
that's a long answer to two short
let me
questions.
reflect to both. I realize we end up with 2 different topics, so let me just get catch to the first one, agile. I mean agile business process development. What I mean was that I worked in a bank, and we implemented, before I started my postgraduate study, I worked in a bank, and we had a lot of process, and we outsourced them to companies to implement. Our problem was that the lack of trust of the bank to the company which was going to implement the processes. The bank couldn't stay and wait to a company spend a lot of time and end up with implemented processes. It was a lot of risk because we should spend a lot of money and time, and what if it doesn't work? So I think that agile business process development might help here, because you can really develop a small scale, deliver it to the customers, get the trust, and you can develop the process in that sense. At least it's what I understand from agile business process development.
Very short answer. I think you're completely right, but we do underestimate one very important component. Most of the organizations, and I work quite a bit with banks, have a problem including architecting in the game. And if you want to build over time, iteratively, incrementally, you'd better make sure that you have some pretty good enterprise architects on board. Yeah. Otherwise, your end-to-end is going down the drain before you know it.
So about the other comment, about the not natural, I think the word maybe is unnatural, because it's how evolution happens. A lot of things happens that one gets succeed. So is the word unnatural, or
that depends on the timeline. If you compare evolution to day-to-day, let's say, progress in the business, that's kind of two very different worlds. If you would wait 100 years, I think I can be very, very innovative for you.
I can say different, we can consider it as analogy. Just, I mean that it's definition of natural, that a lot of things can happen, what one of them gets succeed. And it's really in innovation, because what we called in innovation, we don't have any dominant design. Things happen, you should accept, you should see the acceptance of people, and then the dominant design gets shaped, and the whole paradigm goes around that. And at least it's what I see in innovation.
Very nice. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's maybe we come back to you, but probably there are some other people and comments and thoughts. Thank you very much, Stin, also for the great. I'm kind of hesitant to interrupt this nice discussion, but I just feel that there might be some others. Are there any others? Otherwise, I give back the word to you guys, which is fine for me too. Will, thank you.
So Mario and also some of the others mentioned several times the notion of speed. Yeah. You need to be very fast. In an academic world, you have like long timelines and you have all the time in the world, some people think. And in the business, things need to happen really fast. And that's, of course, the case. But at the same time, we have in Dutch the saying, I'm not sure whether it's also saying in English or in German, you need to fix the roof when the sun is shining. Yeah. You should not try to fix the roof when it's raining. Indeed. And I think organizations need to build up BPM capabilities which are repeatable. So, for example, if you would like to look at the business case for doing a process mining project, and you look at one particular process and you see what you need to invest in it, etc., you can say, okay, I can postpone this until half a year, when it's more urgent or whatever. And I think that holds for many other topics, also investing in generic technology. So I think you need to fix the roof when the sun is shining, when you have the capabilities to do so, but make sure that you don't build something for a very specific problem, but something that is repeatable, that you can
But this is
apply
the clever
again and
approach.
again.
This is the clever approach.
Yeah.
So something is shining, we fix the problems, but honestly, end of the day, this is not in all cases possible. This is the fact. So, and especially here in the Dutch area, especially I work for Friesland Campina. So, and look a little back, how many companies here buy Friesland Campina last years? A lot of, and bring these different companies, different cultures, different business approaches together. This is a huge change management from the organization, from the people, from the complete company. And this is a long time program. You can make this in speed. This is not possible. You bring here different cultures together, Germans, Dutch, from the, I don't know how many countries here buy different companies. Yes, I have a few in a normal way. In the sun, when the sun shines, it's good. We can close the problems, but actually we have in a European area, we have a good time for build up here BPM, close and fix the different problems, and we can create more business in the future for us, actually. But we do it. Look a little bit back at how many money spent the companies the last 3 years after the crisis, actually in BPM. Billions and billions to prepare the business for the next 10 years. And this is what's running actually. Mm-hmm. So I review fully what you tell us. But the world is not white or black, he's gray. And that's also a point.
Yeah. Yeah. But what I mean is when you think of the business case and the short-term problems, you need to think of the business case in a longer period, longer than the next half year.
I'm with you, but this is our, don't misunderstand me, this is a European approach. We look longer in a longer time shift. But a lot of companies have quarter by quarter. Business is quarterly. And the rules, figures and numbers, every quarter, every month. So if you're coming here, a CEO, and have a contract of 3 years, in the 3 years he must make his business for his bonus. And it's driven by bonus, driven by quarter, and this is his approach. And tell me, it's very open, different CEOs, but well, I need to fix the problem in the next few months. After them, I don't have time for this. I have other problems. I must search for a new job or for a new contract. So please fix this. So, and that's this here, don't misunderstand me, it's the American approach. But honestly, we have a lot of headquarters, but coming also from America to Europe. And I don't know, have you the same feeling? But my feeling is speed coming also from the culture, American culture to Europe. We are under pressure. We must also build up more speed. Why? We are in a global, we work globally, not locally. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's also a point. Speed coming from the pressure, from the American pressure, from the Asian pressure to Europe. And actually, I think we are in a good position. Sun is shining.
Yeah. Thank you very much. But I think very nice going. In theory, you're totally right. But in practice, I often experience also when the sun is shining, there is not the sense of urgency. to actually invest or make people invest into the future. But of course, it is probably also kind of an educational issue. We need to further raise this point, so that companies would utilize the sunshine to actually really get some roofs fixed. Fully understand. Tobias, could you, when I was listening to that conversation, reminded me a little bit about the investment Hilti took in with the GPDH2 project.
Correct, exactly.
Could you comment on this as an example? Because second round would be also collecting a couple of examples in that field.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that is exactly what you said. I mean, Hilti standardized all processes globally until the year 2010. And what was the biggest disadvantage out of that? Speed, agility. I mean, the business was heavily complaining that local requirements were not fulfilled anymore, we did everything the same. But if you look to the construction industry, look to Europe. Old houses, a lot of renovation work. Then look to the Middle East, look to Dubai. What do you see there? High-rise buildings, huge projects. It's project business. So how do you react on that? If you have implemented this GPDH2, so that fully standardized single instance SAP system with fully global processes. What we have done is we implemented a concept called solid core flexible boundary, which goes a little bit into that business modularity discussion the MIT started a couple of years ago. So we said we keep the whole processes within H2 and especially the data, not the processes all, but the data, we keep in this SAP system. But what we have implemented is a gateway called SAP Gateway. It's more a technical solution, but again, which is accessing that data. And now we are using, for example, mobile apps to exactly build the processes which are not fulfilling the needs. So any local project in business in Dubai is now using an app for that. So we have developed apps in another manner, rapid prototyping, no waterfall model, really immediately started to use these apps, accessing all time long that SAP data. So we have tried to adapt these global processes again more to regional ones, and then with these regional process, with a really fast app, something like that, we are still accessing the main data. So whenever we notice that was not a good move, we either move back to the global process or do something else. So we still have all the data, all the advantages of that standardized model inside, but trying to access the data wherever needed and then adapt the processes. And that's something what we do today, and we have a lot of good examples where we have adapted the global processes to the local needs, and but it is not affecting, also from a stability perspective, that global system in the middle. So that is fully standardized SAP.
Awesome. Thank you very much for the example. Hayo, would you like to comment on that?
Thank you. That is a fascinating illustration of the drawbacks of over-standardization. And as I understand you emphasized in your example ways to locally get quicker access to data than you would normally provide in the standardized process. I'm so curious. Can you give me examples, perhaps, about this similar phenomenon? Where even the process is different. So it's not only the access to the information, but where you would also configure the process differently to meet local requirements or standards. Do you have these examples?
I mean, the project business is a typical example. If you look usually to our organization, we are pretty much trade organized. So we are servicing the electrician, or we are servicing the typical classical construction industry who's building up high-rise buildings and so on. But if it comes to project management, you see a pretty, and these Middle East example, let us stay with that Middle East example, you have development companies, and they are putting huge RFPs out, and they put huge business out. So it is not only the typical electrician work. So what we did is, the overall sales process is today different. The guy is really managing the whole project in his app, in his system, which we developed. But the data is more or less put in a very standardized manner into the CM system or into the SAP H2 system. So that's really trying to completely changing not only the way how we use the system, also the process. The process for the project business is a totally different one. So the sales organization is different, the way how he works is different. So also the penetration, you can imagine. I mean, today in Europe, we are very much stick on the customer, right? We try to focus. The project business is a different one. You need to focus on this one project. And that's the reason why we have implemented that. A couple of other examples, like the solar business, where we needed to adapt that. The solar business is similar, more project-oriented business. And that's something where Hilti was not strong. And also the whole GPTH2 was not designed for. So therefore, we tried to put another process in, based usually on mobile apps, or also a classical example, perhaps, that's also a nice one, Brazil tax. Try to implement the tax system in Brazil into your global processes. Forget that. The one and only thing which you do is the next release upgrade, you can stop the whole process and try to fix it in Brazil first, and then you can upgrade, right? So what we did is we took another solution, we changed the process, but we interfere with this SAP system. So really try to keep more data in, but trying to access it. That's flexibility.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. Could you give some examples from Swarovski?
Well, from Swarovski, from a logistics perspective or from a global supply chain perspective, is not so much different from what Hilti is doing, right? We have our core business where we try to keep the processes standardized, right? Because we have a global distribution network, we have global warehouse networks, so we need to keep it comparable across the globe, right? To have internal benchmarking, to keep the material flow and the information flow stable. So therefore, it really helps to have the same style or the same set of processes across the globe. But on the other hand, for us, it's probably a little bit more the distribution channels, online, offline, right? Where we have to use add-on software or different processes to adapt our general process to it, right? And where we have other customer requirements. I mean, everybody who's ordering on Amazon.com knows what the personal requirements are in terms of printing an invoice online, getting the track and trace information on your cell phone, on your smartphone, and so on and so on. So we have a very similar approach. We have an SAP backbone, and then we use software that is connected to it. And another example might be the whole transportation and customs setup, right? We just heard something about Brazil tax, but there are all types of fancy setups across the world. Not talking India is one example, China is one example, right? Where you can forget about your nice standardized processes because local regulations and requirements is contradicting that, and so therefore you need to be flexible in that regard.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Any comments to these examples? Oh yeah, there is a comment, question.
Thank you for the discussion. I have a question actually about this Agile BPM. So I heard Agile BPM, I heard traditional BPM, but I was curious, why not continuous BPM? Because, for instance, we heard this notion of continuous auditing and continuous monitoring. So why not continuous BPM? Like, if you saw a case which is deviating and you select up and you change the process on instance and try to customize it, to personalize it to these customers. And I wonder, is this a science fiction? Or did you saw any real practice examples of this? Or if it won't never work in the practice, and why wouldn't that work then?
Who would like to pick up on this one? Faridi?
I can talk about the theory, how this can be formulated in terms of research. So definitely what is important is that for example, we talked about deviations, or we talked about the events that can happen, and we need to change the business process. So we need a mechanism that provides us with different alternatives, and give us the best option between them, while again we consider the stakeholders' requirements and inform also requirements. If I was supposed to send, for example, a ring via a certain type of postal service, and it's going to change, so I should inform my customers about that. So I agree, but this of course needs tools, and the tools that you can really put it in practice in order to have a business process running and be responsive to the changes that happen and flexible. But maybe you can give a practical example. I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, certainly there are different local requirements,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Depending on the market, right? Just when you send in your ring, right, and you're in France, you will use, for example, a different service provider than in Germany, and therefore you will use a different software and you will use different processes because there are also different habits in different markets, right? So yeah, definitely.
And in theory, one would talk about, of course, such variants, which locally are different, but then one would talk about reference models, as for instance Jörg presented slightly in his presentation today, which enable to model on a certain level of abstraction those things would be in common for all areas, and then you would have kind of well-defined parts in processes or in descriptions where you would then customize and detail.
We have,
Is that
you
a
have different processes, or you have, let's say we have, for example, right now we're doing a project on doing repair services for jewelry, right? So you would probably send in your ring because it's broken, right? And of course, it's a more or less standardized process. To 80% of the process is more or less standardized because it will be the same across Europe, no doubt about it, right? And especially there are no customs boundaries within the European Union. So it should be more or less standardized, but then there are local requirements in the local market, like in terms of service expectations. When is the customer expecting it back? Is that person expecting it back being home delivered or delivered to work, right?
Exactly,
Are there more people at work or more housewives at home? So the demographics plays into that. So what you do is you start with a standard process, and then you need to adapt to the local requirements of the market to hit the customer's requirement. So this is how we usually do it. Right.
Very well. Thank you very much.